Watch all episodes of Vigil on BBC iPlayer.
2 games on Match of the Day 2 tonight.
Now on BBC One, the evening news with Tina Daheley in the studio and Clive Myrie in Jerusalem.
A Ukrainian unit sent us their footage as they defend the fiercely contested town of Avdiivka in the Donbass region. Russia. So imagine this family's fear. Daria knows her husband was sent to fight in Avdiivka. They lost war.
He
got on the bar him for the last time.
Painful to tell, hard to hear. Those who recounted their stories ask only this, that the world listens. Jenny Hill, BBC News, Odessa.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Oliver Dowden, has denied that the Conservatives tried to cover up rape allegations against one of their MPs. The former Tory chair, Sir Jake Berry, is reported to have written to police last year, raising concerns that the claims hadn't been properly dealt with. Mr Dowden insisted the allegations were taken exceptionally seriously. Our political correspondent Nick Eardley is here with me. Nick, what more can you tell us about these claims?
Wednesday. Well, that's it for tonight, but there's lots to keep you interested in local news coming up this week. Join us for that.
For 70 years, Panorama has pursued the truth.
Until the fuss subsides, and she has now been shorn for the very first time. Once Britain's loneliest sheep, Fiona, described as tame and relaxed, is now barely recognisable. Alexandra Mackenzie, BBC News.
Time for a look at the weather now with Chris Fawkes. That looks stunning.
Doesn't it? End of the week. Tina.
Chris, thank you very much. And that's BBC News at 10. Now on BBC One, it's time to join our colleagues across the nations and regions. From the 10 team here, it's good night. We're in the south, speaking to refugees forced out by Russian bombardment. The Deputy Prime Minister denies claims that the Conservatives tried to cover up rape allegations against an unnamed MP. Selfies and the world's largest indoor waterfall. Prince William arrives in Singapore to announce the £1 million winners of his Earthshot prize.
Puffing up the old get a wee lift. Right, there we go.
And after 2 years stuck on a Scottish Highland cliff, a dramatic rescue mission is launched to save the world's loneliest sheep.
Good evening to you from Jerusalem, where reports out of Gaza suggest some of the heaviest bombing raids by Israel are taking place, just as America's top diplomat, on his latest visit to the Middle East, pushes for what he's calling a humanitarian pause in the war. Now, Antony Blinken has been meeting with Palestinian Authority leaders in the occupied West Bank who want nothing less than a full ceasefire, something America rejects. However, the White House believes a brief pause could help in the hostage negotiations with the group Hamas, who killed more than 1,400 Israelis and seized more than 200 people in their attacks on southern Israel on October the 7th. A pause might also allow for badly needed aid to reach more than 2 million Palestinians under siege in Gaza. Hamas has been designated as a terrorist organisation by the UK government, and the Hamas-run health ministry in the territory says more than 9,700 people have been killed in airstrikes so far, including at least 45 in an attack on a refugee camp overnight on Saturday. Well, some of our reports tonight do contain some upsetting material, and now Yogit Elimai has our top story.
Yogit Elimai, BBC News, Tel Aviv.
The continuing tragedy on both sides of this war? Well, you heard Yogita there talk about this claim by Hamas that an Israeli airstrike hit a refugee camp in Gaza overnight on Saturday. Well, Al-Maghazi camp is located in the center of the strip south of Wadi Gaza, in a part of the territory where civilians had been told to move to avoid the fighting much further north. Well, Rushdie Abu Alouf has traveled to the area and he sent us this update.
Fergal Keane, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Our diplomatic correspondent Paul Adams is here with me now. Paul, the prospects of peace, they seem a long, long way away. No question about that. But Anthony Blinken is here. He's trying to do what he can to try and get at least what he's calling a humanitarian pause. How well is he doing in that regard?
Well, he's certainly putting in the air miles. He's been to Israel, Jordan, the West Bank, Iraq. He's now in Turkey. He's talking to everyone. He's going everywhere. What is he achieving? Well, the Americans say that they're getting a lot more aid now into the southern Gaza Strip than was. And American surveillance drones flying over the Gaza Strip tells you just how much attention the Americans are now paying to the crisis here. An administration that until about a month ago thought that everything here was more or less under control.
Yeah, indeed, very interesting development. OK, Paul, thank you. Paul Adams, their diplomatic correspondent. Before we go from here in Jerusalem, Scotland's First Minister, Hamza Yousaf, has confirmed his in-laws have now arrived back in Scotland after being trapped in Gaza for more than 3 weeks. Now, he's posted a video of the reunion on social media. Elizabeth El Nakla and her husband managed to cross into Egypt on Friday. Well, that's it from the team here in Jerusalem. Now it's back to you, Tina, in the studio in London.
Clive, thanks very much. To the war in Ukraine now, and ahead of winter, both Russia and Ukraine have tried to consolidate their recent military advances. Ukrainian counter-offensives in the east saw small territorial gains around such cities as Robotyne and Bakhmut. But there are growing concerns that the war has now reached a stalemate. Renewed Russian assaults on the town of Avdiivka, with increasing use of heavy artillery along the front line, is forcing thousands of Ukrainians to leave their homes. And it's not just in the east. Our correspondent Jenny Hill has travelled to Odessa in the south to speak to refugees from Kherson who have been forced out because of heavy Russian bombardments.
Minister deals with complaints, in particular how the Conservative Party have dealt with some of those complaints over the past few years.
Nick, thank you. Nick Eardley there. Crowds gathered around the world's largest indoor waterfall to greet Prince William as he arrived in Singapore earlier today. He's there to announce 5 winners of his Earthshot Prize at an awards ceremony on Tuesday. Each winner will receive £1 million. Our royal correspondent Daniela Ralph has more.
Around this week's events. Daniela Ralph, BBC News, Singapore.
Before we go, a dramatic rescue has been launched to get a sheep trapped for more than 2 years off the bottom of a cliff in the Scottish Highlands.
BBC News.
Time for a look at the weather now with Chris Fawkes. That looks stunning.
Doesn't it, Tina? Yeah, we've got a strong aurora over the UK at the moment, and it's not just here in northern Scotland where the aurora is visible. Well, if you can see it there, you can see it anywhere across the UK, and a rare sighting of this. It's the end of the week. Tina.
Chris, thank you very much. And that's BBC News at 10. Now on BBC One, it's time to join our colleagues across the nations and regions. From the 10 team here, it's good night.
At 10, we're live in Jerusalem with reports of some of the heaviest bombing raids over Gaza since Israel vowed to destroy Hamas. The increased intensity comes as America's top diplomat calls for a pause in the conflict to allow aid in and Israeli hostages out.
It's important that...
Also tonight, a special report from Ukraine where the counter-offensive continues. £1 million winners of his Earthshot Prize.
Puffing up tail, I'll get a wee lift. Right, there we go.
And after 2 years stuck on a Scottish Highland cliff, a dramatic rescue mission is launched to save the world's loneliest sheep.
evening to you from Jerusalem, where reports out of Gaza suggest some of the heaviest bombing raids by Israel are taking place, just as America's top diplomat, on his latest visit to the Middle East, pushes for what he's calling a humanitarian pause in the war. Now, Antony Blinken has been meeting with Palestinian Authority leaders.
Everything that has happened to you, do you still believe in the possibility of a peaceful future?
I will keep on writing, I will keep on campaigning for peace to the rest of my life. I will never call for wars. We deserve to live. We deserve to live a decent human life.
Tonight in Gaza, the war speaks. For now, louder than hope. Fergal Keane, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Overnight, Israel issued another warning for the people, asking them to leave Gaza City and the north and to come here.
Rushdie Abu Alouf among the rubble there in Gaza. Well, since October the 7th, prospects for a ceasefire in the territory, let alone the wider peace in the region, have been frozen. But there are individuals on both sides of the conflict with a commitment to peace that goes beyond this war. And this now is the story of two such men. Fergal Keane has that report for you now. Here in Jerusalem, Scotland's First Minister Hamza Yousaf has confirmed his in-laws have now arrived back in Scotland after being trapped in Gaza for more than 3 weeks. Now, he's posted a video of the reunion on social media. Elizabeth El Nakla and her husband managed to cross into Egypt on Friday. Well, that's it from the team here in Jerusalem. Now it's back to you, Tina, in the studio in London.
Clive, thanks very much.